So, welcome, guys. So, I don't know if you guys saw the last interview thing that I did, but I like doing this in pairs because it's kind of fun. You guys don't have as much pressure to one person answer. You can bounce ideas off each other. And I've been pairing people up that I think would be a good offset in terms of like you two are interesting because I think the theme of today, what I want to do is talk about the athlete mindset because you guys are both athletes or former athletes or identify with that, injuries, setbacks, kind of breaking that all or nothing start stop cycle of training. And then just like what showing up means to you guys. And so I'll give a quick intro so that you guys know a little bit about each other. And then maybe you guys can speak a little bit more about yourselves. So Sam, working father, 2 kids, I believe, right?
Yep.
Home office meets home gym colliding, right? And then former GTS member, probably about 5 or 7 years ago, competed in powerlifting. I can't remember all the sports he used to play growing up and in high school. And if you played anything in college, you can kind of refresh me there. But and then just kind of going through the challenges of life, kids, work, injuries, travel, fitness, trying to juggle it all and fit it all in there, And then Peter, former college athlete, rower, I believe, history on, off, back pain, has some success in training in the past, kind of same thing, experiences that start stop cycle of training as well. And newer GTS member, I'd say probably a couple months, right? Something like that. Yeah.
June.
Yeah. So maybe Sam, why don't you kick us off with something like maybe introduce yourself. What does like life look like outside of training for you right now?
Yeah, sure. So just first, Peter, nice to meet you. I appreciate the opportunity, just to talk. Anytime I get a chance to pick Jason's brain about anything, I'm always grateful for it.
Yeah.
I've gotten a lot of real, mileage out of the free coaching that he'll just, throw my way whenever I'm in need and shoot him a text message or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just hoping that anything I say could be of use, to anyone. I guess starting kind of where you said, where I'm at right now. Yeah, just in transitioning phases with my job, managing the normal stuff, just work and raising kids. And both mine and my wife's career have been kind of undergoing transition periods recently. So, like the changing demands of professional demands, all of a sudden I need to commit a ton of time to this new project. Or my wife's travel, she recently in the past 2 years has now started to need to travel more. So we have to do shifting responsibilities with the kids and caretaking and stuff like this. And so, yeah, those are the kind of challenges really that I've, most recently been up against for sure.
Yeah. And how old are your kids?
So yeah, I have 2 sons, ages 13 and 10. So I now just newly this summer have a teenager, which is, wild.
Mother.
I never thought, I never thought I'd get here, but here we are, looking at it right now.
Yeah. So you're in that kind of unique phase. Like I'm in kind of the 2-year-old toddler phase that I'm like just trying to make sure this kid doesn't die. Right.
Yeah.
And you're in the, I guess a different phase of them not dying. Right.
Yes, exactly. No, it is. It's really the, they have so much more independence and you spend so many years trying to foster that sense of independence so that they go out and can handle their business on their own and be their own people. But now you're like, it's not the make sure they don't run out into the street. Now it's just like, hope they text and call back and hope that they're wherever they are, they're making good decisions and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I had with my son, when he was probably like 4 months old, I started walking him with my hands every day. We just kind of walk and practice walking. And everyone thought I was like crazy. And he started walking at 9 months. And I was like, yes, this is so cool. And then you realize, no, this is not that great. Now
exactly.
all I want to do is walk and fall.
Yeah.
So it's like you kind of like want to help rush that independence, but at the same time, it kind of like works against you in some ways. But
there will be that moment where they first take off in a sprint and you realize that the closing distance that you previously had calculated is wrong.
I am living that right now. I'm experiencing the fact that like, oh crap, this kid's going to be faster than me soon. And I better start training for it. I kind of talked about it maybe on a little bit on the last podcast, but it was like, I've kind of the last couple of years, I tried to get away from sports just because like every time I'd go play, I'd come up with some random injury and then it would just impact my job. Right. And so I ended up doing most of my training in the gym was I can control it. But now I'm realizing I'm like running after him and I'm like straining my calf, like just doing a juke or something like that, right? So I'm like, I should probably start incorporating more of those athletic moves and those kind of things because I'm going to need it in the next couple of years, right? So, but Peter, how about you? Tell me a little bit about like what life looks like. You're running your own business, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I have my own fabrication shop. On the other side of the screen, it's a big warehouse with a few more tools than you got, Sam, but not nearly as neatly organized as you have one, and a crew of about 15.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's been like kind of similar. It sounds like a little bit similar to you, but our business is entirely based on projects. So I have like crazy influxes of madness, followed by calmness, followed by madness, followed by calmness, and zero control. Well, not zero control, but very little control of when those periods come and go. I would love a little bit more stability, but yeah, the business it's in its third year right now. So, we are, I think, past the point of survival, and now like trying to like kind of lay down foundation and really build.
You're single or dating right now, or what's your?
I'm very single.
Yeah, so you got
Yeah.
a little more free time than the kids, but
Yeah.
not as much, just because running your business is busy.
So it's interesting because like I'm not going to have children, and mainly because I have no idea how you who have children find the time to have children. I know you make
Magically,
yeah. Did you make it happen? Ultimately, not all, but I find a lot of people like when you have children, you have to give up on something. Sometimes it's your career, sometimes it's fitness, sometimes it's your relationships, sometimes it's your own personal ambitions. I'm always impressed by the people who are able to juggle all of those harmoniously and still not raise like little terrorists. But I know I am not that person. So yeah, I mean, I've really over the course of my career, I've learned more and more about myself, how much I require routine and regimen, but I also like personally despise it. So it's like it's a very at odds sort of existence. But yeah, I mean, I have it pretty much figured out now where I have my hours I come to work, have my schedule where I go to the gym, have my schedule where I do all the accessory stuff, be it just prepping my home, prepping the week. I used to do meal prepping, but that was was time suck that took away from social time. So kind of like engineered, hacked, and figured out a lifestyle that affords me the time to do everything without anything feeling rushed.
good,
Which is
good,
really important. So
awesome. So like I've got all these pockets of people that, I kind of talk about this idea of showing up and making fitness or strength or whatever it is a part of your life, some type of like physical activity, right? And I feel like athletes are a little better about this in some ways and not so good in others because I think we get into this habit of, seasons, right? You get ready, you have preseason that you kind of sprint to get ready for the season. And then you're playing the season and you might be playing through injury or, you have to do what you got to do to get through that thing, right? And then afterwards, you're kind of done with it and like, all right, I just need a break, right? And I think that kind of infiltrates our lives moving forward. And I kind of look at us all like professional athletes in a way is we need our bodies to do our jobs or like whether it's, parenting or just like, Peter, you and I have like physical jobs, right? So we have to be able to be on our feet and be able, like, we can't afford to be injured, right? It's not like one of those things that, injury sets us back so much. And I think, both of you guys might have came to us for different reasons. But like maybe take us back to like, before you started with us, what was your maybe pain points coming into like, our program? What were the things that you learned and transitioned so far? And then kind of what are the pain points you're dealing with now?
Yeah, I can jump in, I guess, without trying to go all the way back. I mean, one of the major dynamics that's kind of been something I've struggled with for decades now is weight management.
Mhm.
And I think that realistically, it does go back to my, high school days. I was football and wrestling were my two sports. And so there was this real imperative to bulk up and put on as much muscle as I could for football and lose as much weight as I could, do as much like extreme, really quick fat loss as I could to
Yeah.
get down to weight for wrestling. I found that I was pretty good at both putting on and losing the weight. And so I had this kind of cyclical, multiple every year gaining and losing like 30 pounds, this type of thing. And that continued into college. And so my overall activity level, I did play a few years of rugby in college, and that was really good time, but it wasn't like a NCAA level. It was more club and and a lot of recreational drinking too with the rugby guys. So I don't want to oversell like my collegiate athletic pedigree. But realistically, that did carry on. And so I kind of found out during those years, I did lift semi-regularly, but I got into running. And when I first met you, Jason, I was running quite a bit. That was kind of the main dial that I had for weight control.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm kind of happy with this. I was never good at it. It was never easy, but I thought, oh, that's just proof that I need to keep doing it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I could tell that there was something missing, and I wanted to find the next, like something that would made me the sports that I was competing in feel more rewarding and feel like that I was pursuing more structured goals. And that's kind of when I found you. I was literally trying to make up my mind. Do I want to get into CrossFit maybe? Or, and then I found this excellent program, and the rest is history. I mean, I fell in love with it, more or less right away.
Yeah.
But yeah. And you're as aware as anyone that GTS solved so many of my issues in terms of wanting to find a community, wanting to structure goals, wanting to find something that I enjoy to work towards. But it didn't right away solve my weight
management. In fact, it probably got in the way of your weight management.
In some sense, complicated it a little bit, but it did force me to get really focused about like, well, how do I do these things in like how, and kind of ripped away the illusion that I didn't have to focus on it, that I could, that it would just come if I was just maintained a certain level of activity that would take care of itself. I had to explicitly kind of prioritize it for sure.
Yeah. So Sam ended up competing in powerlifting because I'd say probably 5 to 7 years back, we were known as like the powerlifting, kind of one of the powerlifting facilities in the area. There was like a guy that Sean Waxman, he was like my kind of Olympic lifting counterpart. I'd say that everyone went to him for Olympic lifting, and a lot of people went to us at the time for powerlifting. I think we've since pivoted then. We obviously use all of these core, big barbell lifts as staples in our program, but I've kind of shifted away because I think most powerlifters just end up broken after like 2 or 3 years, right? And so we want to use the tools in the toolbox, but maybe kind of reduce the extreme of it. And we used to have like our main priority is to get people strong, and to get strong, mass moves mass. So sometimes putting on body weight is helpful for that, right? And especially if you're competing at that level, right? So you're associating your success on that, and then sometimes it just helps to kind of increase the weight. And so obviously I think we've kind of pivoted that over the years. I think that's something that like a lot of people can kind of get away with in their 20s. And I think it's great to still compete, and I definitely promote it, but I think we have like much higher standards in terms of what we're looking for now. And we use it as like a motivating factor to kind of, improve and stick to things because it's objective, right? But balancing out that risk of injury is kind of like really big for us, and balancing out everything else, right? I think now I've kind of got to the point where I think the most important thing is not the PR and more that you're showing up. Like Peter and I have talked about this in the gym of just how many consecutive days of training have you gotten for the year? How many total days of training have you gotten over the year? Right? Versus just that PR that like you struggle to get this one achievement, and then all of a sudden you're left broken, or in a couple workouts left broken, right?
Exactly.
So I guess flipping this back onto Peter. So we're coming with your background. You've had some success with training in the past. You've kind of dealt with some back injuries, and then you came into us. What was that impetus to kind of bring you into us? And then also, what have you learned and transitioned in the last couple of months with us?
Yeah, for me, it was always interesting. I was a D1 rower, and a top like 10 national, amongst the top 10 national teams. So had a really competitive program. I walked onto that team. So I went from being just like a kind of a meathead in high school to walking onto the team and learning that
Meathead walk-on.
Yeah. And like rowing is all aerobic capacity, and it is strength. It's also just size. But I was rowing with a bunch of my friends are Olympians, some of them gold medalists, silver, whatnot. So like it was, I learned very quickly what training and what serious training was, and ultimately like helped me really, aside from permanently injuring me or causing an injury. It really taught me how much I could suffer. So suffering and pain is like all something familiar, and it's also something I just associate with training. And then after college, I was like, I'm never going to touch an ergometer again. I just want to lift. And I got real big after that. And then just like would, go through periods of lifting and then not lifting and kind of get to a point where I was like, okay, this is good. And I would cruise it in that state until it wasn't good, usually around winter time, and then kind of cycle back up. But ultimately I herniated discs in my back when I was in college, and those kind of plagued me. So my lifting went from full body to, like, during college, to mainly just like upper body and legs. Like I always had strong legs, cyclist, for many years after college, and loved cycling in general. But every time I got back into a lifting program and I found one or two that I really, really loved, and I always had great results, but they were super destructive on the body. Like I could only hang in them for maybe 3-4 months. But in the course of those 3 or 4 months, I would pack on all the size I'd wanted. I would get to the body composition that I basically was like okay with. And then I would get hurt and just completely stop. So kind of like just an up and down of like getting there or almost getting there. And then, one day I go to pick up the toilet seat, or I turn around, and then all of a sudden I can barely stand, and I'm nursing, back spasms and sciatica, episodes of sciatica that would last for, the longest one was like 13 months of just like not being able to stand up straight and having like excruciating pain down my legs. So they kind of like basically swore off lower body and just was like, all right, I'll just continue to work on the upper body and focus on flexibility, mobility, and then just aerobic capacity. So, like you saying, like the running became the thing that, it's like, okay, feel a little soft, but just let's put on the shoes and go for the 3.5 mile loop or 4 mile loop or whatever. And then during the pandemic, I got really, really thin, because that's all I could do. And basically got back into lifting afterwards, got big, and then dropped to some of my lowest weight since college. So I was like in the high 190s. And then on that like bulking phase, decided to see how big I could get, got up to about 225, got hurt, and then never really cut the weight off. So I was like about to get into a cut and just stayed 225.
Yeah.
Then
Gets a lot harder to cut in your 30s, I find.
That was
40s.
there's also other thing called like just getting old that like started to really make things challenging. Also like earning more money and being more comfortable, being able to afford eating out and drinking and all that kind of stuff. So
for sure,
when I started my company and that, I gave up on workouts. Like this is going to take a Herculean list of me on all sides to get this thing up and going. And it was fine, but then it started to be a thing where like a couple of things happened in my personal life where, in terms of mental health started to become really challenging. And, in the journey of kind of getting back to being good in the head, I worked with a professional therapist to be like, all right, when I was last good, what was I doing? And kind of during all those periods of like when I was on the top of my game or feeling really good about life, fitness was always a part of it. So I was like, all right, I'm missing a thing. Let me take that thing and do it. And I was training on my own and it was doing okay, but ultimately it wasn't really losing much weight. I thought I was eating right and doing all those sorts of things right. Turns out I didn't know at the time, but alcohol kind of prevents your body from losing weight.
Who knew?
Yeah, I mean, in your 20s, it doesn't really, but in your 30s, it definitely does.
It's one thing to know it on paper, right? But it's another thing to live it.
Yeah. So, basically I'm 38. I had my 38th birthday and I just like looked in the mirror. I was like, all right, man, like you gotta change it. So that was in May, and in June, I was like, all right, let me get the diet together, stop drinking, and let me find a gym. And I've always had trouble with finding a gym that I liked, especially since the advent of the gym influencer.
Yeah.
It really, really just like gym culture. I've had good gyms in the past, but ultimately like the best one by us is Bay Club. And they ran a program where they had a lot of kids become members, and there's a level of disrespect in the gym it really just ekes me out. Like people that don't clean up after themselves and put their weights back. Like I'm a person that needs organization in my space, and walking into a weight room and just seeing everything just just all over the place. It literally like, I can't do my
Oh,
work until it, yeah.
mismatched plates.
Yeah. Just like, you're like a bar with like one plate on it. And like, so I, I was searching around and ultimately, honestly, ChatGPT led me to GTS, and I came in and met with Jason and the crew and just was like, my whole goal was trying to make fitness and working out just like part of the routine as
Yeah.
opposed to the thing that I was going to do to get to a goal. So like, I have no goals. I do have a little bit of a weight goal, but I have like no goals in terms of my training other than to be able to train physically, make
Yeah.
sure that it's part of my schedule. And, ultimately, like, I kind of treat it like medicine. Like,
Good.
did I take my medicine today? And
Amen,
that's,
brother.
that's kind of the way I look at almost everything now, because those are the things I know I need to do in order to be good. And if I do those, I'm good. If I'm not doing those, I can see it so quickly now, not being
Yeah.
good. It's like, all right, let's get back to the core functions.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, you touched on like some like really powerful things, like identity. I think like, transitioning from athlete to former athlete to, oh, I'm old now, right? Kind of like it changes the way you act. And I think just mental health in general. I think Peter, you and I talked about this. I need to do some type of training every day because I am a better human being to be around. It alleviates a lot of my anxiety. I feel like I see things more clearly. It's almost like a meditative type thing in a way. And I've learned over the years, I was actually just writing about this. I think I've kind of told both you guys, or I'm working on a book course thing on the almost like the art of showing up and making this a part of your life. So it's like non-negotiable, almost like a framework. And I just found that there was a time in my life where I'd say I was much more depressed or negative thinking, or I had things happen to me, kind of more like much more of like a victim mentality in certain things. I mean, I think you guys, I might have talked to you guys both about this. I've been divorced. I've been through a lot of kind of ups and downs in my life, right? And I think sometimes you act when you feel sad, you do things, you act in a way that is sad. You listen to sad music, you lock yourself in a room for a little bit. You play video games or watch TV shows for hours. You disconnect from people, right? And you find that all of those things are the things that keep you happy and, like being of service to people. I find I have kind of almost like a couple things that I have to do every day. I have to be of service. I think that's good. I have to connect with people in some way or another. Working out, I learn something new, and I like to do a little bit of work. And if I do those things for the most part, yeah, I am in a good state, right? Like
Yep.
I feel like I'm moving the needle in my life. I have some control. It doesn't have to be a ton, but I have to check most of those boxes, and I can kind of go a day or two without it. But usually I start feeling it. It starts building up a little bit, right? So yeah, and then I think just like that identity starts to shift from someone that is, sad and depressed or hurt, or you start identifying with injury as, this is just part of my heritage. I've got family members have bad back, so I have a bad back. And now I can't do this anymore, right? And so you start building like this fear around exercise or certain things. So it really just comes down to, Peter and I, Peter's capable of lifting a lot of weight. He's this big, strong dude. We started him very basic, and we're trying to build the habit of showing up repeatedly and just let time do its work, right? Because the weight's going to be there. The question is really, is he going to be there next week? Right?
And
So
honestly, like, Jason, that's been part of my adoption of GTS, and like why I'm doing it now so regularly, is that I never, like, we've all gone to the gym for that first time after being off and then not been able to like use our arms or legs or bodies for like a week or so because we're so sore
yeah,
that I mean, you and I are constantly going back and forth in the programming and like, stay at this weight. I'm like, well, I can do more. But like, I've always felt like I've gotten a workout in, but I've never missed a day because of soreness or injury or anything like that. And with a compromised back and all those things, like that's why I've become such a big advocate of training here and working with you guys.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of give you some broad questions. And you guys can just, like I said, I like to talk about this idea of like showing up. Like, what is showing up means a lot of things to me, whether it means like training or family or whatever it is, so what does maybe showing up mean to you guys? And compared to when you were in like kind of your athletic days and then what it looks like now?
I could say on my end,
Yeah.
like showing up, we weren't allowed to not show up. And if we
Mm.
didn't show up, we were kicked off the team. So there's that.
The mandatory aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. Yeah, I mean, it was like you don't need to be here, but if you, like want to be part of this, like you do have to be here, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's like again working with therapists. There's been a lot of talk about prioritizing myself over work, putting myself first amongst all in the terms of the things that I need in order to be the best version of myself.
Mm.
So, fitness is one of those things. It's identified as one of those things. So in order for me to build my company to be the best, that to be what I'm trying to build it to be, in order to be the manager, the leader to my crew, in order to be the friend to my friends, just be the person to myself, like I need to, like I said, take that medicine. I need to check that box.
Yeah.
And, I think when we had our introductory talks, one of the big things that you really preach, I've heard you talk about it with other people, is like never miss a day twice. And also like really lowering the bar of entry of like what is an acceptable day of doing something. So that even on the day where you just don't want to, whatever, like life just get up and move for 10 minutes.
Mm.
Like that low bar of entry or of acceptance of like, hey, you just have to do this and you will feel better, helps with I might as well not even go because I can't get in a full hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's been kind of a theme that's instead the mantra is the thing that I continue to remind myself and allows me to, there's so, especially lately with all the calorie deficit, like I don't want to go.
Yeah.
During the warm up, I'm already making negotiations with myself of like, I just won't do the accessory lift, or like, when I'm going for a run or doing other training, I'm like, I'll just do 3 miles. I won't do the other half mile. And then, part of the showing up, I just go like, well, I'm already here. Yeah. Just finish it.
Yeah.
Just finish. Like what's another 5 minutes of my day. Like, and I'm fortunate where I don't have that type of children or wife to like attend to or anything else. It's like, what else am I going to do? So just do it. The fact that I'm there and I've shown up and I've already like doing the thing, it's just a lot easier to just do the rest of the things.
Yeah.
So I think it's
just amazing what happens when you just say like, even I'll go with minimal expectations today, like literally set it at the floor.
Yeah.
And then if you show up, you'd be amazed what happens when you show up. Then you go, okay, well, I guess, the floor is, I can hit that. Okay. What else?
It's interesting. It's like, I was talking to someone about this recently that, I ran cross country in college. I mean, in high school rather. And I still, to this day, I think it's like the most mentally demanding sport I've ever done. Running at a competitive level that like, you're just, like you said, you're in a constant negotiation with yourself of like, all right, maybe I'll roll my ankle here and I'll just get out of this race. It's just like, especially that stampede that you get when you get like a cross country meet and everyone's kind of trying to funnel into the front. Right. And so you're just sprinting for 3 miles. And I don't know how people after I was done with it in high school, I got kind of and my coach was just so good at roping me into it every year. And I just like wanted to quit every time. But unfortunately, I'm grateful that I learned how to endure and push myself through those mental, you realize that disconnect between your physical capabilities and your mental kind of governor that almost like stops you at a certain level, right? And then you learn that you can push past that, which I think is incredible life lesson, but it's not something that I'm going to do for the rest of my life. But I think it's just that thing with like, even I think Navy SEALs talk about it is I just have to get to the next thing. I don't have to worry about, the guys that survive, that SEAL training that they go through, the buds, whatever. It's like, they talk about how as long as I just have to get to this point, right? And then I just have to get to this point. And it's just these like small, little, tiny wins that you're building on each other. And then, like you said, I'm here anyway, I might as well. I just have to show up, right? Because I think that one of the issues that, as athletes or people that have had success in training, you realize, like a lot of this stuff is about progressive overload. And I have to get a little bit better each time I come in. And so you get kind of addicted to this fact that like, I have to put more weight on the bar. I have to get more reps or whatever it is. but we look at it on like almost like a workout to workout level and not like a macro, monthly or year level, right? Like you getting more workouts this year is probably better than you getting, you know, just a couple more PRs in this one year, right? And setting back.
Totally.
Or, I mean, I've done training cycles where I didn't allow myself to increase the weight at all. And all I did was I had to get 100 total reps at a particular weight before I was allowed to move the weight up. So I had to break it up however made sense over the course of like 2 or 3 days a week or 1 day a week, whatever it is. Once I was able to hit 100 total and collect them all, then I had permission to increase weight. And I had great success with that, right? Because you magically just get really good at this one weight. You own it so well. And then by the time you're ready to jump up, you can make a bigger jump, right? So there's so many different ways we can do this, but I think we just get tied into, got to do more. And I think that's that athlete in us that is like, I should be here. I'm always behind, especially when you get injured, you're set back and you're like, I got to claw my way back up to where I was, and we rush it and then we just end up hurting ourselves again. But I guess let's kind of circle that same question back to you, Sam. Like, so your identity around this and what does showing up mean to you now and nowadays?
Sure. Yeah, I can kind of just say it's for me been a very slow, pretty steady, and more or less, I believe, fairly successful march towards away from this kind of thinking where in my 20s and in my early 30s, you do a lot of this magical thinking. You're like, oh, this is a busy quarter. I have lots going on. I'm taking a lot of classes or, and so you think I'll prioritize getting in shape or whatever at some other point. This not what this is about. But then as I've gotten older, I just realized like you just have to prioritize it. So you have to do these things at the same time. So there's no good time and there's no bad time, And so you just kind of have to do this. And so I also think that as my kids have gotten older, it's been really clear that like I'm modeling this, and so they're like, oh, dad takes his time to do this. He sets this time aside to do these things. And I say like, really, it has been a slow process because it's like not something that I even would pretend that I've mastered yet. But what is clear is that like by prioritizing it and by identifying that way, the variance of the shifts that I go through is slowly decreasing over time,
Yeah, that's
so
good.
instead of being like, oh, I haven't lifted in months, now there's no months that go by where I'm not lifting,
Yeah.
It occasionally there's weeks, right? That definitely happens. I'll go on vacation or something like this and I get out of that mode. And I, definitely understand that's something to continue to work on, but minimizing that variance. And so it puts me in this headspace where, even if I have a bad week and I know, okay, I had misjudged how many commitments I have this week.
Yeah.
I can still say, I can make this put this in the bucket of like, I got 2 lifts in this week. Even if there were 2 half-hour lifts at the end of the year, that's still a 2-week lift bucket, that I got.
Yeah.
And I know when I'm doing well and I hit my intended program, I usually will go like 10 or 12 week programs and I'm trying to lift 4 times a week. If I get that 4, I'm feeling great. Everything's good and dialed in, but sometimes it's 3. Sometimes it's 2. And even if you're like, holy cow, it's Thursday and I haven't lifted, you can still usually salvage that too if you try and scramble and make up for it. So just realizing that like when you get off track, you're not fully, I'm never truly starting over anymore. It's like by minimizing that variance, it wasn't that long ago since I was in the routine and I can jump back in and I'm not, it's not lost. All that work you've put in over the years is never lost. Truly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's cool. And I love watching you on Circle. Like that's why I love this app that we've had now. Cause now I can kind of keep track of we current former members, we get to kind of see you on there still. You're still connected with the community, even though you're not necessarily training with us in person, which I think is just so cool to be able to kind of keep track and keep tabs on you. And it's really impressive. I mean, you do have these like kind of long 2-hour work. I can't even imagine myself doing a lot of those consistently anymore, but you do have the ability to pivot. And I love kind of watching the way you kind of transition. It's like, hey, this happened. I'm going to do this instead. It wasn't my plan, but I'm here anyway. And I'm doing the thing.
There's
right?
a
And I
lot of
think,
that. And I would definitely want to plug and shout out the Circle app community, because it's one of the coolest aspects of my experience with GTS. It's like so often I'll be like, I'll just scroll that app and then you just end up feeling better instead of scrolling any of the other apps that are out there, and you end
yeah,
up feeling worse,
yeah, yeah,
about yourself and your brain chemistry, and you just see everybody and how hard everyone's working, and that sense of
yeah.
community. It's really, really cool.
For sure. My Instagram time has plummeted significantly. And it's great because it's like when you go on there, you just kind of realize it's kind of like a cesspool of ads. Like I was showing
Oh yeah,
someone the other day, you just scroll. I think it was like 5, 10 scrolls, something like that before I even saw a person I knew and I
yeah,
followed, so now I feel like this is kind of at least when I'm on this social media platform, I feel like I'm engaging with people. I'm sharing stuff. I'm creating content, not just consuming. And then it does really motivate me. I mean, we've got people doing all sorts of cool things. And I'm like, I want to do a hike,
yeah,
or I want to do
totally.
a swim, or whatever it is. And you just see people pivoting and you're like, God, it keeps you accountable. Right. And then I think once you build some momentum on there too, you just become a role model on there. You're like, I got to post now, like I got to get on it.
Totally, totally,
So,
totally.
so I'm trying to build that as like, it was kind of like an experiment. And now I'm hoping that we can kind of integrate it as part of the business as like one thing that's kind of like, hey, we're catching on a bunch of different levels. We're going to teach you this personal accountability that, you can hold yourself accountable for. And some people are good at that and some people need some help. Right. And then we've got this kind of community and coach aspect of it. Right. And so we've got like people all in various different levels, which I think is great too, because you can identify, it's not just like everyone's at the beginner level. There's people that are all over the spectrum, which I think is such a cool thing because you climb your way up and then your next thing you know, oh, here's a bunch of people that are at this level now. And then everyone's going to stumble at some point in time, right? I've had someone today that is, he had his streak of 100 and something, 130 maybe consecutive days of training,
Wow.
and he got sick over the weekend. So he broke his streak. He missed his 2 days, right? And so he's excited to start over. But, I think the big thing for him is like, what I encourage him to do is like, keep tabs on your PR, your consecutive days, your total days training for the year, because that is like really what we're after. The consecutive days is just like kind of a cool way to build a habit and a streak to keep you accountable, right? But when in the grand scheme of things, if you trained 300 total days over the year, that's like an impressive number, right?
Absolutely.
So you're probably going to move the needle on a bunch of things in your life. But I don't want to take up a ton of your time, but I just want to wrap this up real quick. So we're kind of like almost like the 40-minute mark now. If you guys were talking to someone that was stuck in this cycle, this start-stop cycle, injury cycle, whatever it is, knowing what you know now, even if you're not like a master at it just yet, what advice would you give to those people just starting out?
Yeah, I can jump, because I guess it's like, for me, there's a few lessons, and they kind of dovetail with the whole notion of aging and things in life changing. And it's, this mentality of what is it that you're chasing,
Mm.
and to kind of reevaluate, what those things are that you're chasing. And so for me, a lot of times it would get discouraging if I come back to the gym after a hiatus, or after things getting a bit chaotic, and then you go, oh man, all my lifts have gone down. My work capacity has gone down. I can't. I'm cardiovascularly, I'm not there. And so you think like, well, it's going to take so much to get back to just those things. And I realized, like, a lot of the time when I'm really chasing those things, like a PR or something, there is an element of toxicness to it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you can be focusing on the wrong thing.
yeah.
And so whereas now when I think about it, I'm more thinking, I'm like, I'm literally building my mobility right now. I'm building functional strength for daily living by
Yeah.
just showing up, and those kinds of things. Instead of like chasing a PR to it and end up hurting myself more, I'm just like, I want to be in a place where if I have to, pick up my kid, or or do, just move things around the house, I'm less likely to hurt myself.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's this point of like diminishing returns where, hey, you got a 400-pound deadlift. You
Yeah.
getting a 500-pound deadlift is not necessarily
Yeah.
going to improve your life. It'll probably
Exactly.
detract from it. to be honest with you,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. But what about you, Peter? What's your so people start like in this, getting started in this, have a history of start stop What would be your advice?
I think for me, it was like two-part. One is find coaching. You know, we get coached to whenever we learn something new. You know, we go to school, we sign up for a course, something like that. It was kind of funny for me. It was, I used to be coached to do fitness, and I was like, oh, okay, I now know how to do this. And then, you know, that's actually, that sort of ideology is how I got into getting coached for, you know, sales consulting or with therapy. And then therapist is like, well, you should maybe think about getting coached again. And I was, oh, okay. You know,
Yeah.
so finding a coach and getting a coach, finding someone that you vibe with. I think a big part of it is like being realistic with like what you're trying to achieve and how to work it into your life in a sustainable way.
Mhm.
So, you know, when I started with you, the first thing for me was just like, can I get, and there was actually a couple of days where I just drove by the gym on my way back from work or in my schedule to be like, can I get here in a regular day? Like, am I making a huge sacrifice in order to do this thing? Because by the sacrifice is too big, the second that the opportunity presents itself to not do the thing,
Mm,
show up to the gym or eat well or whatever it is, then it's the first thing to go. So
interesting.
it was
That's
really
good.
about like how to engineer fitness and then ultimately diet into my life in a sustainable way that I can do with little disruption to what I already,
Yeah.
just for that, you know, that first month or so or whatever, so that it starts to become the thing that it starts to become part of the life rather than be this thing that I have to do in addition to my life.
Good stuff,
So,
man. Well, I appreciate the two of you guys so much for taking the time out of your days to jump in. I think this will be really valuable to people. And, you know, if you don't mind, I'll share it. If there's anything that you guys want taken out or whatever, you could just let me know, whatever. But I think you guys both did kind of nailed it today. And I think it'll be really, really useful for someone that might be either on the fence or, you know, getting other members to kind of, I think the kind of cool thing on Circle is, you know, you see these people that are posting stuff and now you'll start associating a story and some lessons with these people, which I think will be really cool, you know? So it just kind of it just helps us with our community. And hey, if a couple people watch, awesome. You know, I'm glad.
yeah.
So just, but be prepared. Your Instagrams will probably grow by like
Yeah.
one or two followers. It's gonna
That's
probably
gonna
blow
be
up.
double.
Yeah, most likely my mom, maybe, who knows? So I'll say, but cool guys. Thank you so much. As a thank you, grab some t-shirts, another t-shirt on me next time you're in the area. And, you know, I love your t-shirts all the time, Peter. I wear that thing. I wear that thing like every day. Then I don't wear a GTS shirt. I end up wearing your,
There you go. There you go. Honey badger shirt.
yours. So,
Yeah.
cool guys. So, thanks again. Appreciate you. And I'll shoot you like a video of this stuff whenever I get done with it. So,
Sounds good.
Thanks so much,
Sam,
Jason.
pleasure
It's a
to meet you,
pleasure to
man.
meet you, Peter. Yeah, absolutely. Talk soon,
Okay,
guys.
easy, guys.